Hey guys, today I want to share some insights with you on what I have been working on for the last couple of weeks. One of the things I created was the first YouTube video on my acoustic piano here behind me. And I wanted to do something special with that video, so I recorded some of my old original compositions, but I wanted to do it with a multi-angle camera setup. So in a moment I'm going to talk a bit about how I did that. So what I have also done in the last month is that I took a week off just to practice some orchestral production and to create a new production template. And I'm going to start by talk a bit about that. So this time what I started to do was to build a template in Cubase, and a template is essentially just a preset of tracks that is available every time I open Cubase. Because if you have to set up all these tracks for each project you're going to make, it will take a lot of time. So basically my template consists of a lot of different piano tracks that is already loaded when I open Cubase. A lot of different strings tracks that you see here. They're all organized into folders depending on the library they come from. I also have woodwinds, brass, percussion and drums included. So the really nice thing about having such a template is that I can just open Cubase and then I'm able to start playing. And I can switch between different pianos here just to find the right sound. And it's very easy for me to record my first ideas. And then I can very easily experiment with putting some strings on this. So that may not sound like the best composition, but it's the idea that it's very easy to get started recording your ideas and making a new composition. So I spent a lot of time on creating this template, but of course I also had to practice some production, and I wanted to focus on different types of articulations and instruments because I'm very used to working with long strings. These are the long type of string notes that I usually put on top of my piano tracks, but I'm not very used to working with short strings and other type of instruments such as woodwinds, brass and percussion. So I really wanted to practice that just so I can expand my knowledge and the type of music I'm able to create. So let's close this and let's open one of my training projects. Okay, so now we see one of my training projects. The reason we only see the strings here and not all the other instruments that we saw before is because I hadn't reached that point in my template creation. When I made this, I had only added the strings to the template. So with this one, I wanted to practice short strings. I didn't want to spend too much time on these tracks, so it's not like a real thoroughly worked mix you're going to hear, but I think it worked out well. Let's try to hear some of it. Just by creating such a little track, I actually gained a lot of new knowledge about the instruments that I'm using here. So the takeaway is pretty nice. Okay, so now we are in another project here. The focus with this project was to include some woodwinds on the track. As you can see here, there is some short notes from the piccolo and the flute that's also coming in. So it's not very obvious, the woodwinds here, but you can hear them and they add some nice detail to the sound. Otherwise, we have a piano sound and some long strings notes this type of track is like very essential for me because that's something I'm definitely going to use more in my own piano music. Let's try to hear through it. I don't know if you noticed the flute, but the reason it's a bit hard to hear is because it's playing the same melody as the highest strings. So it can sound a bit like strings, but it just adds and blends so well with the strings. So it gives such a beautiful tone. And yeah, I actually really like this track. This is like the definition of the type of music I like to create. It's also like very cinematic, which is the whole purpose of my training here, is to become a better cinematic composer and producer. Okay, just for fun, I want to show you the last track I created. It was with focus on drums and percussion. I'm not sure I'm going to use that type of instruments so much in my own music, but it was fun to create, so I want to share that with you as well. Okay, now we're into my percussion project. I did add some drums down here, and I also have some short notes, short strings. The short strings work well with percussion. But other than that, it's a pretty primitive, simple track. But it ended up sounding okay. I'll let you be the judge of that. Yeah, so that was a simple track. Okay, so I guess that's all I had to say about this orchestral training and template thing. I did spend, I think I spent a whole week on these things actually, and I hope it's a good investment in my music for the future. But who knows? I really like to just dive in and experiment, play around with all these sounds. Okay, so now I just want to talk a bit about the YouTube video that I created with that multicam setup that I talked about in the beginning. So that was quite a challenge. It took a lot of time, but it ended up working fairly well, I think. Now we just see my project in Final Cut here. If I had 4 different cameras and made just one recording, then it would be extremely simple. If I had those 4 angles, I could just load the video one time, create a multicam clip, and then I would be able to switch between the angles just by typing 1, 2, 3 here. Now, as you see, I'm actually able to do it, but that's because I did a lot of manual work first. So what I actually did was that I recorded each song 4 times. Then I decided to use the first recording as the main recording and then sync the 3 remaining recordings with the first recording. So what I did, if we look into the first piece down here, this is my main recording here. And then I did take all these, so this up here is the second recording. And I did cut it up and then move the sections around just to make sure that this part here is synchronized with the first recording and so on. Of course, it means there are some cuts here, but to avoid that become visible, I would just make sure to make an angle cut at this point. So switch from one angle to another, then we would not be able to see these cuts. So I had to do this with 4 different angles. And then, of course, I decided to record 4 different songs. That was a lot of work, a lot of manual work. I think it took me a week and a half just to first record the songs and then do all this synchronization. But once I had done that, I could export each file and then I could load it as a multicam clip, and then I was actually able just to load in the recording and then make my angle editing just by typing on my numeric keypad here. So that way I could easily switch between angles. As you see here. So finally, it ended up, in my opinion, to look like I actually made just one recording with 4 cameras, even though I did make 4 different takes for all songs with just using one camera. If you haven't watched the final video, I suggest you go ahead and do it. Of course, there's a link in the description for that. And then I guess that was basically what I have been working on for the last period. Now I'm focusing on new original music, but I'm not going to share that with you now. You have to wait a little bit for that. So thanks a lot for watching this video today, and I'll see you next time.